Look around your room right now. The walls are solid. The door is locked. A smartphone is resting just inches from your hand. You feel completely safe. So you close your eyes. You turn off your conscious mind. And you surrender. For the next 8 hours, you are no longer a modern human with advanced technology. From a raw biological standpoint, you are just a motionless piece of meat, lying helpless on the ground. From the perspective of natural selection, sleep looks like evolution's greatest mistake. Think about it. 8 hours of total vulnerability. Zero environmental awareness. Senses muted. Defenses completely stripped away. You are a ghost in your own body. Imagine a biological engineer designing a creature. If that engineer wanted the creature to be hunted, cornered, and destroyed, they would design exactly what we call sleep. In this state, consciousness drops to zero, muscles relax completely, reflexes shut down, the brain enters a twilight zone. Modern civilization repackaged this terrifying biological tax and sold it as comfort, but we forget the cost. For our ancestors, 300,000 years ago, closing their eyes wasn't a relaxing routine. It was a daily act of biological suicide.
Our ancestors had no memory foam mattresses, no security alarms. They slept directly on cold dirt under a pitch-black sky. No locked doors, no fences, no defense systems. The paradox deepens the more you look at it. Why did natural selection, which ruthlessly eliminates any weakness, allow this fatal flaw to survive for millennia? Why would a creature that dominates the day with its intelligence and tools choose to spend 1/3 of its life in a state of temporary death? To understand this, we have to look into the dark.
The answer is hidden deep in the shadows of the prehistoric wild, a place where the human species was completely blind, but other, deadlier creatures were just waking up. When the sun went down over the African savanna, humans became functionally paralyzed. Our natural vision in darkness is close to zero. We cannot see the predator in the bush. We cannot track movement in the grass. We were blind targets. But while our world turned off, another world built entirely for slaughter was turning on.
For the kings of the night, darkness was not a limitation. It was a biological advantage. Large felines possess a reflective layer behind their retina called the tapetum lucidum. This natural light amplifier makes a leopard's night vision up to 6 times more sensitive than yours. Where you see total darkness, they see your exact location, your posture, your path from 50 meters away. You are glowing in their eyes. And vision was only the first weapon in their evolutionary arsenal. Beyond their eyes, their sense of smell functioned as a biological radar. Consider the gray wolf. A single gray wolf has up to 300 million olfactory receptors. You have 5 million. Their sense of smell is roughly 60 times stronger than a human's. They don't just smell you, they map you. A wolf pack can detect the chemical signature of your sleeping breath carried by wind from over a kilometer away. You couldn't hide your presence, even if you tried. Travel back 2 million years. The threat was even more brutal. Our ancestors shared the dark with Smilodon, the saber-toothed predator. These animals had ears finely tuned to isolate specific sounds from background noise. They could filter wind, rustling leaves, and distant calls to lock onto a single target moving through heavy bush. They didn't need to see you clearly. They just needed to hear you moving, and a sleeping group of hominids produced plenty of sound. Faced with this overwhelming army of night vision, chemical radar, and acute hearing, early humans statistically had almost no chance of survival. If you ran the simulation 1,000 times, we should have gone extinct. Yet the fossil record shows something shocking. Humans were rarely hunted in their sleep. The sensory kings of the night stayed away. Why? To solve this massive biological puzzle, modern science had to stop guessing and start digging into the data. In 2020, Professor David Samson from the University of Toronto launched a groundbreaking study. His team tracked the real-time sleep patterns of the Hadza tribe in Tanzania, a group that still lives much like our ancestors did. Over a continuous monitoring period of 220 hours, the data revealed something remarkable. Out of the entire tribal group, the moments where almost everyone was simultaneously asleep were extremely rare. Someone was nearly always awake, watching the surrounding darkness. This discovery is what scientists call the Sentinel Hypothesis. Human sleep was never a solitary act. It was an organized shift system. While you slept, someone else was always watching the horizon. Then, in 2022, the mystery took a new turn in Europe. Inside the Apidima Cave in Greece, Dr. Katerina Harvati and the Max Planck Institute found evidence of how early humans strategically used their physical environment. They weren't just hiding in caves. They were making intelligent decisions about where to sleep. Dr. Harvati's team found that early humans repeatedly chose specific locations deeper inside cave systems. These spots had naturally limited access points. A large predator could not approach from multiple directions at once. Even without building anything, these groups used the cave's own geometry as a defense system. One narrow entrance meant one direction to watch. One direction to watch meant fewer sentinels needed. Fewer sentinels meant more people could sleep. It was raw geological architecture being used as a survival tool.
There may have been another advantage to deep cave chambers. Airflow inside a cave moves differently from open air. Scent doesn't travel outward in the same way. While caves certainly didn't eliminate human scent, they may have reduced how far it drifted into the surrounding landscape. Even a small reduction in detectability could make a meaningful difference over thousands of generations. Survival wasn't built on one single invention. It was built on many small advantages stacked on top of each other.
The survival strategy went beyond architecture. It was also chemical. This was discovered in South Africa. Professor Lynn Wadley from Wits University led an excavation that analyzed compressed fossilized bedding layers dating back approximately 77,000 years. When the team placed these ancient samples under laboratory analysis, they found something extraordinary. Our ancestors weren't just gathering random soft grass to sleep on. They were carefully selecting specific plants with known insecticidal properties to build their sleeping mats.
These selected plants contained compounds that repelled insects and parasites. Less insect exposure meant less disease. Less disease meant better sleep quality. Better sleep meant sharper thinking the next day. What looked like a simple pile of grass was actually the product of accumulated environmental knowledge passed down across generations. The scientific picture was becoming clear. Successful sleep in the prehistoric world required preparation, intelligence, and adaptation. It was a calculated chemical defense against the invisible threats of the night.
Yet even with organized camps, strategic cave positions, and chemical mats, large predators were still moving in the outer shadows. They were close enough to hear breathing. So why didn't they rush the camp? Because wild animals are not driven by malice. They are efficient evolutionary businessmen. Every hunt is a high-stakes gamble of calories and survival. Getting injured during a hunt can be fatal. And when humans finally began using fire hundreds of thousands of years ago, the entire economic balance of the night began to shift. Fire didn't just produce warmth, it produced light. Bright, flickering, unpredictable light. For a predator built for darkness, a fire was disorienting and unfamiliar. It disrupted the very advantage they depended on. A group of humans gathered around a fire was no longer an easy target. They were a high-risk encounter, surrounded by an uncontrollable, blinding force. The cost-benefit calculation changed completely. A predator that approached a fire camp risked injury from an unknown source, and even a minor injury in the wild could be a death sentence. Even when predators could detect a human group, accurately assessing its size was far harder. Inside a cave or around a fire, much remained hidden. The outer boundary of a group was invisible. Was it 5 people? 20? And sleeping humans produce fewer signals. Heart rate slows. Movement nearly stops. The overall activity signature drops. While this doesn't make a sleeping person invisible, it reduces the behavioral cues predators use to distinguish alert prey from resting prey. Combined with shelter, fire, and group coordination, these small advantages compounded into something powerful. And just when predators were beginning to adapt to human camps, our ancestors deployed the greatest biological alliance in history, the partnership with wolves. It was a perfect transaction between two species. Early wolves traded their hyperacute senses and night vision for our high-calorie leftover scraps. They became our external nervous system. A wolf sitting at the edge of a dark camp could detect an approaching predator long before it reached the outer perimeter. This destroyed the hunter's only real weapon, the element of surprise. It mobilized a highly organized, tool-wielding human defense force in seconds. Your 8 hours of vulnerability every single night is not a design flaw of natural selection. It is a hard-won triumph of collective engineering, spatial intelligence, chemical knowledge, fire, and interspecies diplomacy. You can lie down in a dark room tonight, shut off your brain, and sleep in absolute peace only because your ancestors spent thousands of years staying awake in the terrifying dark. The safety we feel today didn't appear overnight. It was built across hundreds of generations through failure, adaptation, and relentless cooperation. Looks like we've reached the end of the video. Farewell.